There's I guess I've never really explained like the philosophy that I have towards my channel, where it's kind of like a experiment, really. Um like an experiment on how to have fun, just because I just want to do the things that I want to do on my Twitch channel and my YouTube channel. But I think the interesting thing is like the character redeems. I always mention them, but I think it's because people are recognizing that like it's now a it's now a canon thing. And without them, they're like, where are the characters? Where are the silly little buggers? So the idea for this model that I have right here, it's all the same live 2D model, right? It's this one I named Ellie Owo S. Kennedy Reloaded. I just wanted to use this model as a way for me to break kayfabe, essentially. Like, because the other characters, right, they have kayfabe. Like Sporky, Naifuwu, the PNG Strawberry, those characters have kayfabe. They have lore. But this live 2D model, I sort of wanted to it's just essentially me as the streamer and not as the character. Because I was realizing that I needed to break kayfabe. Otherwise, I would be using that silly little like strawberry voice for like every single stream, and I would just get lost in the sauce. You know what I mean? So this is just this model here is like a visual representation for me to be like, okay, you just chill. Chill out. Just chill. You can just be like a streamer with this model in particular. Because the other ones have character voices. And I feel weird using like Sporky and Knife and Brogan and Doctor without voices. So I just thought like I would try and choose a visual representation that helps me break kayfabe. Because I find that like I really like to perform, right? But however, that comes at a cost. It comes at a cost. But like I need the visual representation for me to psychologically be like, okay, you're now Sporky. You're now Sporky. You're now Shrimper. You're now Brogan. Because I haven't given this model like any lore or any like backstory or any like kayfabe. It makes sense for me that it's just me. It makes sense that it's just me as a streamer. That doesn't look like me, of course, but it's just me without any flavor text. And a lot of people just do that with like vtubing, right? Like a lot of people just but a lot of other people also have kayfabe. Like a lot of people have kayfabe, so it's a lot about striking a balance for me. because like me as a, I guess it's more like taking the different parts of me and like putting it into like a format, if that makes sense. It's more psychological than you think. Like, I didn't realize how psychological VTubing would be. Especially when you are playing characters. That's why I kind of, I kind of think like it's not about the quality of the model. Like, it's like you can, there's a difference, but like there is a difference between like, it's interesting. Like, it's not about the model. It really is not about the model. And I think that's what I want to get across. It's like not about the model, even though they are like, for me, they're beautiful. Like, the live 2D is beautiful, but it's not about the model. I think it's for me to like, it's like an extension of being creative. Like, because I think with a lot of people, right, they have one model and it represents them in total as a brand, but for me it's like it's just a different way to relate to it's just a different way to relate to like myself and others. I think, like, I didn't think I would have this position on VTubing, like it's a psychological experiment, but it really is. It really is, because like when you start leading into like kayfabe and like character lore and like stuff like that, and when people begin to interact with the characters as if they're separate people, even though it's just me, like Sporky for instance. Like Sporky is a separate entity now. Like she's a separate entity. When people ask for Sporky, they're asking for someone else. Even though it's all me, right? It's crazy. Like, it's interesting. And like when people interact with Brogan, there's a like they interact in kayfabe with Brogan's kayfabe. So people start role-playing with Brogan as if they're a dude. As if they're like a brother or a dad. And I think that's what makes VTubing separate from just streaming. It's like the characters become separate entities. And that's what's starting to happen to like my redeems, you know? Like the reason why I don't I don't play a character when I use this model is because I need to have a sense of where my baseline is. Like, I can't be getting lost in the sauce, you know? Like, I need to have like a baseline of like who I am. But it's just an interesting thought to have, because like there's like, I'm not just one like what I'm noticing now with people interacting with the redeems is like, I'm not just one, like I'm Knife, right? I'm Knife Fuwu, right? But there's an element of like, when people want to talk to Sporky, it's like dialing up a phone and talking to Sporky. And then I have to sort of then I have to sort of think about like I have to sort of go with the flow of things in that character voice and in that mindset. Like, some of the things I've said in Brogan's character has been some of the most ridiculous shit I've ever said. Like, I wouldn't think of this stuff as myself, but as Brogan, what the fuck am I saying? I watched back some of the YouTube videos, and I was like, what on earth? What planet am I on when I use that voice? What planet am I on? And, like, I made a YouTube video, right, about... It's sort of like this sort of, like, kind of absurdist, self-aware, like, roleplay ASMR, Left 4 Dead 2, like, it was a stream I did on Friday, but it was just such a tongue-in-cheek, self-aware, character stream. Like, I get what I do is cringe, right? Like, I fully know what I'm doing is cringe. However, like, I think people should lean into being silly more often. More often than not. Because unfortunately, like, VTubing has, like, a very serious, like, heaviness feel to it. VTubing has, like, this very, like, it's like an overlay of darkness over it, just because of the fact that it's like the cult of online celebrity. It's the cult of online celebrity and fame, and just like, you know, like internet culture. And I think that a lot of people are burnt out by VTubing because of that, but also because of the fact that it's more of a, you know, it's an entire industry. Like, VTubing is an entire industry. I think because, like, I'm so close to finishing this. I would say, like, the VTubers who do follow, like, the more, like, idle path of VTubing is that it does feel like there's constant, like, comparison. Like, if your model looks similar to someone else's model, like, there's a constant sense of comparison of, like, pre-existing anime tropes. I think the fact that, like, trying to be an individual in a sea of people in the same genre as you is never going to, I don't think it's hard, like, you're never going to be separated from, like, the laws of comparison or people's views, like, people contrasting you to, like, in regards to, like, other people. But I think for me, it's like, I essentially took this up as a hobby because I needed to have fun. But, like, the creative, I think the creativity in indie VTubing is just so good. Like, so insane. Like, I watched a guy in his lab just make a robot. And he's like a PNG tuber too. Like, he's just a PNG that, like, jumps up and down on the screen, and, like, people love him for that. I think now more than ever I pay attention to like what the corporate VTubers are doing and what the nature of the scene is like, just because it's like that it's sort of like trickle down economics. That type of culture flows down to the indie scene of like VTubers. And I think there's a lot of VTubers who just want to be streamers with avatars. Because of that. Like, because of the sort of, like, they want to separate themselves from the corporate culture. Or from the expectations that, like, that's sort of put on them, you know? I have no expectations for myself, and I think that's the most... I think when your creativity, when you sell your creativity for money, right, when it turns into labor, and you sort of, it sort of like hollows you out in the sense, like, a lot of people when their passions become their job, it is more about survival and getting the work done and getting paid. That's what happens in capitalism and in the working world. Like your hobbies and your passions, they die a bit. Or the environment in which you exist in is an industry. So your personal connection to the thing that you love is now your job and is now like filtered through the lens of industry. So I always think that like when people have hobbies are our way to just be like, you can suck at a thing and enjoy it. Like, you don't have to be good at shit to enjoy it, you know? Like, and I find with like late stage capitalism that like our hobbies are always sort of like converted into a way of getting like capital. And it's like, yes, it's good. Like there is, to an extent, that's really good. Like more creative jobs sustain that way, but at the same time, it's like, the lack of work-life balance, the saturation, like the hyper saturation and the hyper competitiveness of like creativity. I see why people get burnt out as streamers. I can see why they become burnt out, because like at the end of the day, like streaming is like it's an emotional labor. It's an emotional labor job. It's an emotional labor industry. Like you're like entertainers, streamers, gamers, whatever thing that you do on Twitch and YouTube as a like content creator, it's all emotional labor. There's emotional labor, right? But then there's also the nature of digital media is a constant crunch. Like you are constantly grinding in. If you are in digital media independently, you are constantly grinding.